May 11th. Yep, and after quite a few years of planning this trip, we're finally off to Dublin for a couple of weeks. Bird has just arrived, and we're now getting ready to head to London. We are taxiing, ready for our flight to London. I think we just lifted off. Tourist, she's got her earplugs on, got her little TV screen. We made it to Dublin, and lots of big double-decker buses, lots of pubs. We are staying at the Central Hotel, very convenient to everything downtown. We're walking along Grafton Street, which is one of the major shopping streets. Nothing but a sea of people. Taking a double-decker bus. We just got off the double-decker bus and we're at the Guinness Brewery. Getting ready to go in and see what Guinness is all about. Some of the water that they use in the brewing process. At the end of the line here, we're going to take home a keg or two. Now we're at the bar on top of the Guinness building. Right around noontime, things are picking up. Back on the bus.
17. 2 years after
going past Europe's largest park, the Phoenix Park and Zoo. It's a little overcast today, and I don't know if you can see on the windows, but a little bit on the drizzly side, but not bad enough to stop this little park.
Developed in the mid-18th century by Luke Gardner, Earl of Mountjoy, to widen the street to 45 metres.
Now we're now on Connolly Street, the widest street in Dublin.
It was formerly known as Sackville Street, and at one time considered to be among the finest boulevards in Europe. Heavy fighting during the 1916 Rising caused severe damage.
The green bus ahead there is identical to the one that we're on.
And the Dublin Writers Museum.
Molly Malone, also known as the Tart with the Cart. Completed our trip around on a double-decker bus. One of these hop-on, hop-off. And it's now a little after 5. So time for dinner. So we're at a nice little bistro. It is now Thursday morning and about 10 o'clock. Overcast, drizzly, not too cold, but we're off to Dublin Castle. Well, now it looks a little more like a castle. No moat. A lot of cars. No knights on horses in the castle. We're in the throne room, which was used by Queen Victoria of England when she would come to visit Ireland. This, of course, was prior to 1922 when Ireland obtained its freedom from England. We managed to get opening night tickets to the new play, The Shawshank Redemption, and it was an excellent play. We are in the Temple Bar area, which is a very lively night spot. Near downtown Dublin is Christ Church Cathedral, an Anglican church which has much history behind it and certainly a worthy place to make a visit. After renting a car and starting off southbound, our first stop was Powers Court Gardens, a house and garden of world renown. The area is large enough that you could almost spend a day just walking around the gardens and some of the paths that go off in the various directions. And it was just a nice, pleasant day. It is Saturday morning, about 39 degrees. Now it's probably 49, but I'd like to say 30. We're at Kilkenny Castle. Sort of overcast. Little drizzle, same as it's been for the last 3 days. But still having a good time. Castle, how it might have looked at the walls and the city inside back in about 1275. The castle was actually completed in the year 1234. We're still in Kilkenny. We're down at the river. It's just a nice little scene of their shot of the village along the river. Some of the old part of town. Here is a restaurant called Ripley's, and we had dinner here last night, right in that corner table on the right. Excellent restaurant. As we're walking down this alleyway, we come to a pub here called Kytellers. Well known here, and it has a history of a ghost or a witch that haunts the place. Not far from the downtown is our accommodations, Butler Court bed and breakfast. Nice little courtyard. Now you can see the castle right behind us. Our room is right at the top of the stairs.
We just left Kilkenny on our way to Cashes as you drive along. Not sure what they are. But Jimmy's doing great. His second day of driving. Must be everybody's in church being Sunday morning.
There's where we're going, the Rock of Cashel. We're now at the Rock of Cashel.
A site occupied for centuries by the ancient kings of Munster. What we see today is no ordinary fortress. In the year 1101, this great fortified bastion, the Rock of Cashel, was presented as a gift to the church. Henceforth, Cashel was no longer a stronghold of kings, but a stronghold of the Christian faith.
Again, there's tons of history here, but this was pretty much a church site. It sits about 200 meters higher than the city on a limestone outcrop. While the rock was a prime location and built on first around the year 300, this cathedral, or the ruins of this cathedral, date from about 1275. This must have been quite an impressive building in its time. It is absolutely huge. Pretty nice countryside along the rock. So that's the wall. Today is the day for castles, so now we're at Care Castle, just 15 miles south of Rckey. It's the Care Castle. We have the gate up for us. I'm looking for some archers who might be up in the round tower. I don't see any. Once inside, find another courtyard. This time it's a rectangular tower. And then we have cannons. These just don't seem to fit. Well, looks like we're having a little tractor parade in town. There are quite a few that have already gone by.
We just left the castle. Now we're on our way, going through this little forest to find a Swiss cottage.
Going through the woods here to find Grandma's house. Well, persistence paid off. And we did find Grandma's house in the woods. This is called the Swiss Cottage. And it was owned by the people who owned the castle. Who else would you think? It's a pretty neat place. I like the way they made the roof. We're in the town of Cove, spelled C-O-H-B. Yeah, the town of Cove is best noted for the last point of embarkation for the Titanic and the Lusitania. Apparently they stop here before heading out into the Atlantic. Statue of Annie Moore, who was 15, and her two brothers. They boarded a ship here and landed in New York, and they were the first immigrants to go through Ellis Island. That's pretty good, 15-year-old girl. They gave her a $10 gold piece when she crossed. Now Susan's anxious for a stout ale. Stout. They have 11 beers on tap. Including Miller. But we are drinking a Smithwick, which is a darker beer, but not like Guinness. That's the memorial to the Lusitania, which departed from this port and then was sunk by a German U-boat. Some of the survivors were brought back here. This is just a cute little town. They're waiting, there's all these police there because the Tour de Ireland bicycle race is coming through here. Oh, here comes a big bunch. While I was at that corner where the hill came down and watching them, Susan was at this church, and she was at this railing and would see the cyclers coming in from up there. So she hopefully is on her way back down. Unfortunately, the video recorder crapped out, so the remainder of this has to be just slides or still pictures. Charles Fort near Kinsale is a classic example of a 17th century star-shaped fort. The fort was built by the British in the 1670s to protect the harbor, and it remained in service until 1922 when it was turned over to Ireland. No trip to Ireland would be complete without a visit to Blarney Castle, and Susan got to kiss the Blarney Stone. we toured this old and stately Victorian home. Unfortunately, we weren't able to take pictures on the inside. We spent a couple of nights in the colorful village of Kenmare in southwestern Ireland, just prior to our driving the Ring of Kerry. The Ring of Kerry is about 100-mile drive along the western shores of the country, southwestern shores of the country, where the scenery is absolutely spectacular, with all the green pastures with the dotted homes and colorful little villages. The roads, however, are a little bit on the narrow side. Here is an example of one of the roads. You can see that there is very little room left or right to go off to the side. So, unfortunately, if a bus is coming at you, you have to just back up someplace until they can get by. We then took a ferry across the bay for a 2-night stay in Dingletown, another cute little village. While visiting Dingle Harbor, we found that a dolphin named Fungi has taken up residence in the bay, and of course, they now offer boat trips to go out into the harbor to see the sights and to look for fungi. So we decided we had a day to spend, let's go find fungi, and the sights were pretty gorgeous. It was a pretty nice day, a little cool. But we did find fungi. Couple views. This was actually a very excellent trip. Like the Ring of Kerry, there is also a Dingle Peninsula driving trip. Same narrow roads and same gorgeous scenery. Actually, this was a pretty terrific drive also about 100 miles. At the end of the day, some cool brew and some pub music are in order. We then drove north, including a ferry across the bay, north up to the city of Galway. We spent a few nights here, as Galway is a pretty large and bustling city. Lots of people out on the streets, and lots of things to see and do and go shopping, and it was just a good time there, and we didn't really have to use our car. It was an exceptionally busy weekend, as the Volvo Ocean Race, a world sailing race, was making its first ever stop in Galway, and Ireland's boat was currently in second place. So everyone was excited to see the boats come in over the weekend. So we did go down to the water and looked at some of the goings on, and Had a little food fair as well. Now those for brats. We then headed north to Londonderry, which is in Northern Ireland and is another country and is part of the United Kingdom. There is still evidence of the strife between the Catholics and the Protestants. You can still tell there's a little tension. We made a side trip to the old Bushmills distillery. This is the oldest licensed whiskey distillery in Ireland. It was a good tour, however, when we did get to the tasting room, it was neither mine nor Susan's cup of tea. Along the northeastern coast of Ireland is an area called Giant's Causeway, noted for its unusual rock formations. They're almost like columns of rocks, almost a hexagonal form. So it's almost like looking at a bunch of chips standing on a column. Now driving south along the eastern coast, we come to Northern Ireland's largest city, Belfast. A narrated bus tour is the best way to get the feel of the city. With the cessation of violence between the Catholics and Protestants, Belfast is enjoying a resurgence in tourism. While peaceful, there's still a lot of tension between the Protestants loyal to England and the Queen versus the Catholics who favor an independent Ireland, like the Republic of Ireland. Driving around, we could certainly see the many murals showing their favoritism for this or that, and there is still a wall, a physical wall between the Catholics and the Protestants. And although we were driving between the two areas quite easily, at night they do close some gates to keep the Protestants and Catholic areas separate from one another, thus hopefully keeping tensions at a minimum. But you can see from many of these posters that it is still a politically potent situation. Even with the tension, we did feel safe during our entire visit in Northern Ireland without any problems. The people were super friendly and always helpful. One last stop before arriving in Dublin and heading home. These are the remains of the oldest surviving traces of human activity in the area. The unique seating in business class made the flight home from London to Toronto a real pleasure. The end of a great trip, but always good to get back home.